So when you look at the 2016 budget compared to 2015, the overall budget is higher than 2015. Mainly this is due to increased cash carryover, money spent on streets that we didn't spend on streets in 2015, and then the projected increase in utilities revenue. The rate recommendations that we brought back to you, we had actually built into the budget anticipating some sort of a movement on utility rates. So that increases your overall revenues, which increases your overall budget. The mill levy does remain at 25, and it is a balanced budget with money going into reserve, which is one of our goals each year. Continues the process of paying as you go for most large capital projects. No new employees. And the one fiscal note with regard to the employees, salaries for all employees are scheduled to increase by $2,050. This is a little bit of a deviation from in the past, where we have authorized percentage increases for employees. For example, all employees get a 2% increase or a 3% increase. We have had issues hiring and with retention on some of our mid and lower level jobs, and the market is beating us up pretty badly. And so in doing some focus, doing some comparisons, doing an in-house wage study, we determined that we needed to give some increases. We need to bring the bottom of the hiring ranges up, but those increases needed to be targeted at the lower level. So what we did is we figured out what raises we could afford as far as a percentage raise, and then we divided that, took that total number, what it would cost, divided it by employee, and that's how we would like to allocate the raises. So the lowest paid employees would get the highest amount of raise, the lowest end of the lowest paying jobs, the bottom end of the ranges will be brought up to be more market competitive when we do hire. And then because it's the same amount of raise, that raise would then settle its way out as it moves through the organization. So you don't have compression with just one group getting raises and then the next group up not. So it has a way of evening its way out through the organization. So the lowest paid employee gets the biggest raise and as a percentage, and I get the smallest raise as a percentage, but quite frankly, the lowest paid employees are the ones that need the raise this time. So that's the way that's being structured. Looking at the general fund, the operating budget is slightly higher than 2015, and this is due to the additional $500,000 we're budgeting for streets. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We are projecting 2015 sales taxes to increase at 1.75%. And then in 2016, on top of that, we're projecting a 1% increase in sales tax. This is very conservative, but as you guys have noticed, sales taxes are volatile and they're not predictable at all. So, especially Kim, we would like to err on the side of being conservative rather than overly optimistic. And again, if sales taxes do exceed what we plan on, the commission has a history of taking that money, they put it into reserves, and they use it to pay cash for projects or buy down bonds. So there's a good utilization if that money does come in over what we budget. There was a planner position added, but it's not an added position. It is a replacement of the service division superintendent. I feel that the city could utilize a planner, especially with the amount of internal and redevelopment and reuse we're going to have going on. So we are going to take another shot at hiring that position later in the year. 2016, we are looking at fleet maintenance costs a little bit lower due to fuel prices. And we are looking at one significant project of note in the general fund, and that is a salt storage building for $25,000. Currently, Public Works uses a couple small buildings to store their salt. The buildings have structural integrity problems when they're utilized to store salt because of the load the salt puts on the walls. So we're going to reutilize those buildings as equipment storage because they're fine as long as they're not load being put on the walls. And then we're going to put up a bigger salt storage building. It's there's a visual of it in the budget that will allow us to store more salt more economically and last a lot longer time, so we can better ramp up for large snow events. One item of note based off of last week's work session discussion, the FHSU scholarship request has been funded at $125,000, and the Ellis County Coalition for Development has been funded at $25,000 less at $62,550. Moving to the levy funds, we are looking at a 5% increase in assessed valuation. The increase in assessed valuation will help increase fund the increases in employee retirement. Capers is struggling to try to find money to stay solvent, and so they keep hitting the employer every year to contribute more. And so that has actually been outplacing inflation quite a bit. The airport continues to remain self-sufficient and does remain self-sufficient into the future. We're looking at a couple projects at the airport. FAA cost share projects at 9010 is a snow removal truck and broom. We have a lot of light snow events that the plows really don't do a good job on, but we need to get that snow off the runway and off of the taxiways. And the broom we're looking at getting will work a lot better out at the airport and hopefully stop a lot of those small disruptions in passenger service that the snow events right now, our equipment won't let us get the snow off. We're looking at some fuel farm improvements, which will cost us $215,000. Our fuel farm out there right now is very old and in dire need of replacement, and so this is a good utilization of those dollars. In the utilities fund, solid waste rates have remained the same for the 10th year in a row. In 2006, when the rates were increased, we anticipated about 5 years before we would have to increase the rates again, but we have done a really good job of keeping the reserves fund and keeping the capital up to date and not having to adjust the rates. Next year, I'm saying you're probably going to see a likelihood of a small increase. I think this is about the last year. This was the last year of our comfort level of not recommending an increase. So next year you're going to see something. But one of the things the new public works director has been tasked with was a good 10-year run out of cash flows, capital depreciation cash flows, and where we're going to be spending our money the next year. Lease purchases versus paying cash, differences in cost, things like that. So that'll be as part of the 2017 budget when we come back. Water, wastewater, and water sales tax have been, water sales tax / conservation are now 3 separate budgets. This is a result of knowing we have a very large project right now in the wastewater fund. We have an upcoming very large project with the R9 Ranch and the water fund, and we needed to make sure from an accounting standpoint we completely separate those funds and they operate individually, especially given the capital needs that we know we have and we've put forward to you the capital shortfall we have in revenues. If we're going to fund capital replacement and maintenance programs, we need to know where each fund stands so we're not raising water rates to pay for sewer capital needs. So Kim worked with the auditors to separate these three, and since water conservation efforts are paid for out of water sales tax, that is its own separate fund. So you will see some areas in the budget where in one page you'll have a 2014 and a 2015 actual, but then nothing for 16, and then another page you'll have something for 16, but nothing but 2014 and 15 actual for a line item. That's the reason, is that's part of what was moved over when they split the funds out. We are looking at some water line projects, Oak Street water line upgrades, 20th to 26th. This is about $550,000. We're looking at sandblasting and painting the east primary clarifier, maintenance and replacement of the sewer collection system of $600,000. We're looking at a Prairie Acres tie-in replacement of $30,000. Sewer line cleaning of $120,000. Sewer pipe patch tools of $20,000. And cleaning of the underground reservoirs of $10,000. Cleaning, that's a maintenance item. We have to do that fairly regularly. Under water conservation, we're continuing the commercial and industrial retrofits of $15,000. We've budgeted quite a bit of money for city facilities retrofits. We're looking at educational programs, continuing that, continuing the toilet replacement, cash for grass, urinal replacement, and washing machine replacement programs. With the exception of the urinal replacement, those have all been very successful, and Jason has been as frustrated as anybody on the urinal replacement. He's trying to work on tactics to get better reception for that. Special highway, you will note a transfer into special highway from the general fund. This is the $500,000 extra we're suggesting the governing body spend on street maintenance. I plan to make this a regular expenditure every year going forward. This will compete with parks, police, fire, planning inspection. We have capital assets we need to take care of, and so this is going to be something we plan on doing every year. With that transfer, we're going to plan on spending $1.3 million next year on street maintenance. According to our actuarials, we should be spending about $1.5 million a year on maintenance and $1.5 million a year on replacement. We don't have the replacement money yet, but we're getting very close on the maintenance side. So we're inching ever closer to getting our maintenance needs taken care of. Special parks, with the exception of the civic group matches, There's not much in here. Our plan in special parks is to use these dollars going forward for the maintenance of existing parks infrastructure. In the past, this money has always been used to fund new parks infrastructure, new parks projects. But the reality is, we're creating more infrastructure we have to take care of. And so Jeff has been tasked, Jeff Boyle, the Parks Director, he's been tasked with developing a capital depreciation plan for some of the smaller things, the $50,000, $60,000 pieces of playground equipment, the shelters, the things like that that we know are going to go bad. And then we're going to use this to help fund the, not only whatever civic groups come along, but hopefully fund the infrastructure replacement in our parks. CVB, we have a new director and a new marketing manager. Right now, they're evaluating opportunities. It's too early for them to come back with a plan right now, and the budget kind of reflects that. We are continuing the wayfinding sign and banner project. That's something we've been doing for many years. We're going to take another run at the welcome signs along I-70. There's a focus right now on airport marketing. We're about to ramp up the efforts on that. We'll be coming back to you with some suggestions here shortly. That's one of the things CVB is going to start taking over, is the airport marketing. And
any marketing funds from the current carrier?
No. We get some marketing assistance, but no funds. And we do continue funding the quality of life endeavors out of the Convention and Visitors Bureau budget. Lastly, I'll hit the capital improvement plan. For streets, we are looking at a mill and overlay of Hall Street. We're estimating $700,000 to that. That'll be from 27th to 41st. We're looking at a mill and overlay of 27th Street from Sherman to Canterbury. That'll be approximately $500,000. A mill and overlay of 27th Street from Inglewood to Hall for approximately $160,000. And an in-house overlay of Riley, or 7th Street from Riley to Vine. That street's in pretty bad condition, but we think we can do an in-house overlay, and we think it'll hold up. It's going to be a good test case to see how it works down there. And that is the budget in a nutshell.